Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back with another video from Mother's Basement, and today we're checking out the ones to watch for summer 2025. I have no clue. I need some recommendations. The only thing I can think of is Lord of Mysteries, because Annie News is doing cut content videos on that at the moment. And obviously the sequels. We went over that in the summer anime situation is crazy video. So yeah, let's see what we got. Let's get some recommendations.
I don't have to tell you that this is one of the craziest summers in anime history. You're already watching like 3 different sequels to your personal all-time faves. And if you missed my last video, there's probably 6 others you didn't even realize were back yet. With all that to juggle, you'd think the industry would be easing off on new anime to compensate a little. But buddy, I've watched everything, and let me tell you, you could not be more wrong.
Oh, the cat one as well, oh yeah.
We're talking no less than
when people turn into cats. Whoa.
3 serious anime of the year contenders, 4 of the most refreshing and original fantasy settings I've seen in ages.
Cool.
3 plus a Bloodborne knockoff, but that's still refreshing for anime. And those 2 groups don't even overlap, so that's already 7 full-throated recommendations I've got to make, without even getting into all the great moe anime going right now, multiple harems with actual personalities,
shut the door, no way,
several massively hyped shonen and shoujo adaptations, and the spiritual successor to freaking Nichijou. Once again, there's just no reasonable way I could fit all of that in the top 10, so I'm not gonna. And I'm not gonna try to cheat the system again either. Instead, I'm just putting every anime that I have deemed exceptional on the list,
cool,
and everything else that's flawed but still fun in the bargain basement section at the end. Which is a format I've actually been considering for a while for like this whole series, so I would really appreciate some feedback down in the comments on what you think of this new approach versus the old top 10 style.
Because in all fairness, he does tend to sometimes have like too many things that he wants to recommend and seems to struggle in how to do it, so I think that makes sense, yeah.
These are the ones to watch for summer 2025, brought to you by viewers like you. Bleed-do. Most seasons I like to lead with a crowd-pleasing anime and save the best show for last, but in this case, I'm putting it front and center because everyone needs to hear about Takopi's Original Sin.
Takopi's Original Sin.
Now, before we get into that, I do got to give a little trigger warning to people who are triggered by trigger warnings, as there are several trigger warnings at the start of this anime that kind of give the game away as to how the titular adorable alien mascot thing's quest to make a sad little girl smile with impossible alien tech is ultimately going to shake out, you know, if the title didn't clue you in already. If you're anything like me, you look at the OP after seeing that, and the first thing you think is, holy crap, does the entire anime look this good? Yes. Yes, it does.
Nice. Oh, what a cute little woofer! Wow, the animation's fantastic. Ha! Oh.
But then the second thing you think is, I wonder what bits of this cutesy imagery are secretly foreshadowing stuff that's f***ed up, actually.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be a very emotional show. I've watched far too many animes that trick you like this.
Yes. And thankfully, the ways in which it is f***ed up, actually, are chillingly refreshing. Most anime of this nature darkly subvert the tropes of whatever comfort genre they're trying to make f***ed up, actually, by turning the high-concept source of that comfort into some sort of scary f***ed up monster. Eva does it to mecha, DDLC does it to waifus, Madoka does it to magical girl mascots, and Dead Demons Day Destruction does it to Doraemons. Kinda, though in that case it's more the borderline magical reality-bending alien technology to which a Doraemon provides access that is scary and f***ed up, actually, rather than the Doraemon himself. Still, with that show and manga existing, Takopi would quickly render its own Doraemon riff redundant if it went for a similar subversion, but it dodges the issue brilliantly by playing the trope completely straight. Takopi is sincerely and uncomplicatedly just a little guy, an adorably pure-hearted cartoon blob from another planet who has come to Earth for the sole purpose of bringing joy to the hearts of everyone he meets.
Oh, what a lovely quest. Wow.
Having done basically zero research on human history and human nature beforehand. And it is entirely through that implausibly naive and cloyingly cheerful lens that he bears witness to the horrors. You will have to watch for yourself to find out what those horrors are, though, and not just because holy YouTube would not like that. This is one of those shows that really benefits from going in blind and letting your expectations be shaped and challenged in real time. And I would recommend getting on that soon, because there are only 6 episodes coming of this stunningly animated miniseries, and you're gonna want some time to really sit with and digest every single one of those episodes. Takopi is anime horror of a caliber we only see every few years or so. So it's crazy to think we're getting 2 of them this season, set against the
So, I mean, considering it's just 6 episodes as well, it's completely worth checking out, isn't it? Yeah.
Sweltering backdrop of a small Japanese town way out in the Inaka. The summer Hikaru died tells a tale of fleeting, ephemeral summer love that becomes complicated somewhat when one of the would-be summer lovers disappears into the mountains for a week and comes back a little off.
Oh.
お前やっぱ光っちゃうやろ完璧に模倣した
Oh, whoa. Okay, what the fuck?
Shattered and hollowed by the revelation that his favorite person on Earth died months ago, Yoshiki looks at the, all things considered, very reasonable approximation in front of him and says, "F it, better than nothing," which is good, because Hikaru really didn't want to have to kill him. He's quite fond of Yoshiki, you see, or rather, he was, and it remembers.
Oh, that's weird. Oh, I got chills.
It also doesn't have any of Hikaru's hang-ups about saying how it remembers him feeling out loud, and that is one change Yoshiki can't help enjoying a little.
Whoa.
Despite all the sirens sounding in the fight-or-flight center of his brain, not to mention at all the crime scenes popping up around town lately for, I'm sure, completely unrelated reasons. As a wise woman once said, there's no better yaoi than doomed yaoi. The Summer Hikaru Died is one of the best horror manga I have ever read, and I am thrilled to report that Cygames Pictures and Arrow Manga Sensei director Ryohei Takeshita absolutely knocked their anime version out of the park.
I need to check this out. Oh my god, I'm so intrigued.
The tension and atmosphere are pitch perfect. The attention to detail in the set dressing is impeccable. The shot composition and animation are consistently striking, and it makes several well-considered tweaks to the story structure that better serve the needs of the television format. This is the kind of adaptation that Uzumaki fans didn't even dare to dream of, and honestly, this manga deserves it just as much as that one. Barring an Uzumaki situation with its remaining episodes, The Summer Hikaru Died is all but guaranteed as a frontrunner for Anime of the Year.
Whoa.
I do understand that some folks out there are going to skip it entirely because of its gay subtext, and that's perfectly okay. Horror isn't made for cowards. If graphic tales of men becoming something else are your bag, baby, though, after countless Dragon Quest isekai, a few Final Fantasy isekai, a Phantasy Star isekai, and even a Romance of the Three Kingdoms isekai, China's animation industry is finally stepping in and stepping up to give the people what they really want.
And what's that?
Bloodborne isekai.
Oh, yeah, go on. Yeah, I love that.
A lot of good-looking anime, donghua, if you want to.
Is this Lord of Mysteries?
Technical about it, have been coming out of China lately, including last season's far and away most impressive
To Be Hero X.
new show, To Be Hero
Yeah.
X. And even with the even fiercer competition this summer, Lord of Mysteries has
Right.
managed to
Whoa, this looks so fucking good. Whoa, so this is a... Oh, I might have to check this out. And I might have to check out some cook content videos from Annie News. Oh, works out.
hold on to that crown, barely. It is running next to shows with stronger art direction and or a firmer grasp on the fundamentals of animation, but in terms of just raw 10-cent money all over the screen, the sprawling CGI sets and ufotable level compositing
does look very
uses to bring its
Ufotable-esque.
steampunk cosmic horror London to life are unmatched. As for the story set in that world, it is certainly interesting, but the way it's told begins with a shotgun blast of proper nouns, world-building concepts, and power system mechanics, which you're expected to sort through while also following a convoluted murder-suicide mystery in which our semi-amnesiac hero Klein is one of the victims, and the detective's primary forensic tool is literal mind magic.
Cool.
Plus, there's a
Mindfuck magic.
a plot where Klein uses traditional Chinese luck-enhancing rituals to accidentally recruit a secret society of tarot-themed mages through some sort of foggy dream space that he controls somehow. So even if you're already versed in the tropes of isekai and cultivation fantasy and Bloodborne, you're still probably gonna feel at least a little lost at first. Like, even after 3 double-length episodes, I still scarcely have any idea how most things work or what most of the characters' powers even are. Thankfully, the characters themselves are at least charming enough to get invested in right off the bat, particularly the buddy cop dynamic at the heart of the story, and at any rate, I would rather a horror anime be confusing than over-explained.
Yes.
But that does make it more than a little difficult to gauge just how good this anime will actually end up being when all's said and done. Though I can say that I had a lot of fun with what I've seen so far, and at the very least, when modern isekai looks this good, it's almost enough to scratch my insatiable itch for classic 90s fantasy anime. Almost. Not even the most refined digital aesthetics can fully match the handcrafted magic of traditional cell animation, of course, and far too few even try to capture that ephemeral vibe.
Mate, Megalobox, what an anime. Oh.
Days. But thankfully, this summer, we can add one more to their precious number with Clevatess.
Clever. Hey, do you know what? I keep getting recommended this.
Look and feel to paint its dark fantasy world where the races of humanity are hemmed in on all sides by almighty magic beasts with palpable texture and grit, taking the bit so far as to render its flashbacks with the pixelated stair-step look of a DVD upscaled on an HD TV, thus connecting its heroine's happy memories of a time before her obligatory JRPG.
Oh wow, you
village
can
burning
see
scene
the
with such
difference.
A specific millennial otaku nostalgia, I can't help but root for her. Of course, it is still a TV anime from Laydeuce, so the
Boom.
production values are inevitably going to be hit or miss from episode to episode, and even scene to scene. But at its best, Clevatess nearly reaches the aesthetic heights of not just Lodos, Berserk, and Escaflowne, but the Black Cauldron, Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, and
Yeah, is this the one where like the monster beast thing finds a baby and then yeah.
Bakshi's Lord of the Rings. Utterly spellbinding fantasy landscapes and battle scenes rendered in rough, moody, earthy paint tones that wouldn't look out of place on a heavy metal album cover or Magic the Gathering card. Legitimately, I did not think they could still make them like this, and I am so happy to be proven wrong. Now, I could happily just sit here and drink in these vibes with no further context all day. If this show were just a wallpaper generator, it would still be pretty good. But I am pleased to report that the story attached to them feels suitably epic and a lot
Nice.
fresher than I expected from the tropey JRPG setup. Rich with politics and history, driven by strong, vivid personalities, and packed with twists and turns that consistently kept me guessing as to where it was going next, even as it settled into the comfortable grooves of a grand quest to fulfill a special destiny and secure the fate of the realm. You know, as much as I miss the 90s, between Frieren, Dungeon Meshi, The Imminent Witch Hat Atelier, and this, it's hard to argue there's ever been a better time to love fantasy anime, even if you're not into isekai.
Damn.
It would be a real shame if you're not, though, when summer has isekai offerings as fun as Onmyo Kaiten Ribasu. That's rebirth, but also reverse. An English pun that only makes sense in Japanese.
Okay.
My favorite kind of pun. Just like this is my favorite kind of anime. The stupid awesome kind.
JoJo's.
Emphasis on stupid. But then even more emphasis on awesome.
Awesome. Alright.
Narihara Takeru is a man of action, a real delinquent, strutting around with the stupidest, most Yu-Gi-Oh! Ass haircut you've seen.
Very Yu-Gi-Oh! Ass. Yu-Gi-Oh! Ass. No, who am I thinking of? Actually, no, I'm thinking of a different anime. Can't think of it.
Nobody with a lick of sense would dare talk shit about it. He is introduced to us beating up an entire rival gang by himself while handcuffed to a pole.
Cool.
If you put him up against Yusuke or Ameshi, they'd probably hang out because he's basically Kuwabara. His family motto is don't give up until you're dead. Don't give up even if you're dead. And boy, does he mean it. I'd say this guy but canonically, he doesn't, because he's been saving himself for his dream girl, as in literally the girl that he sees in his dreams basically every night. He's high-key obsessed with her, and low-key, I get it. What a babe. They said, draw a dream girl, and this character designer understood the assignment. Anyway, after his 1999th dream about her, he sees her cute little Pikachu thing darting across the highway, so he dives from his motorcycle off a cliff to save it from Truck-kun. Then, all of a sudden, he finds himself standing in Denji Heiankyo, the futuristic capital of an Onmyo punk alternate Japan, presumably born from some sort of timeline where Perry never showed with the gunboats. The city still has its problems, though, besieged as it is by giant
this looks
monsters.
really cool.
But don't worry, they've also got a fleet of Darling in the Franks-ish two-pilot magic mechs called Shikigami to deal with the whole giant monster situation. But also, his dream girl Tsukimiya happens to live there, and that means, to protect her, Takeru really has no choice but to wander into the middle of kaiju fights and punch the giant monsters in the face.
Cool. Very cool. It's always cool to see like a person go up against like a mech and then just actually like handle it. Like, so stupid and over the top, but it's boss.
With his bare hands.
Yes!
I love this man.
Cool.
I love this show. It is such a good time, with such a fascinating and unique fantasy setting, striking art direction, especially in the 3D bits, fantastic mech and monster design, incredibly likable characters. Did I mention the robots are really cool? And he punches kaiju in the face!
Alright.
Isekai ain't the only core anime genre getting unusually good protags this summer, though. Dealing with the Mikadono sisters is a breeze, gives us a rare, small, and average type harem hero who actually has the stones to speak up for himself in the face of tsundere abuse and even ask bitches who live like this if they really live like this.
Yo, what a dude.
ちょっと待って、この家めちゃくちゃ散らかってません？
Set against the backdrop of a fancy elite high school for prodigies, the series stars Yu Ayase, son of a famously versatile and thrill-seeking actress, essentially the Tom Cruise of Japanese women, who inherited exactly none of her many incredible talents. This, of course, comes as quite the surprise to all the rich kids at the fancy art and sports school, who are all shocked and appalled by the very idea of nepotism. Never before have they heard of such a thing. And most shocked of all are the three royals, a trio of immensely talented teen girls who reign supreme over the school's martial arts and shogi teams, plus the theater department, and who are disgusted to see such a talentless, normal kid before them.
Yeah. get good.
Guess who his new roommates are?
Ah.
Yes, as you probably
And then we learn the truth. We learn the truth about the bitches.
Turns out the three queens of the school are sisters, and also the daughters of his recently deceased mom's rich and famous friend who agreed to take him in. So
Oh.
that's the explanation for how all these hot people ended up living in a big fancy house together
Okay.
in a way. But at the same time, it lends the story a surprisingly rich emotional core through Yu's goal of building the happy sitcom family life that he and his mom both always wanted but never talked to each other about or got to enjoy because she was always so busy with these three precocious prodigies who each remind him of her in some small way.
That's
which is not to
kinda
say they're all
nice.
that similar. This trio of tomboys' personalities are some of the boldest, in fact, out of any waifu I've seen in recent years, and they have wonderfully eclectic and expressive designs to match, which the animators are clearly
They definitely
having
stand
a
out.
ton of
Damn!
fun.
Whoa, that
They're
looks so
all
cool.
quite cute, obviously,
Jeez.
but they also are a bit unapologetically weird, which actually makes them substantially more endearing than safe, sanitized slop waifus who aren't allowed to have any real flaws. Take notes, Reiji. It also helps a lot there's only 3 of them, leaving more time for each one to be
Actually have
fleshed out.
time.
For once, the
Yes.
closest character in the show to
Yes, because it's so frustrating when you get like they do it so often, don't they? It's like there's six sisters, and it's like how do you spend the time getting to know them and flush their characters out and actually make them enjoyable on screen when there's so many of them? And then they go, oh well, we'll just give each of them an episode, and it's like, but then you're spending forever learning about them when it's just 3 and the main character here. That's plenty of time for them all to interact with each other and potentially have moments alone, and more often.
Flawless is the one who actually needs to be for the whole harem premise to make sense. Yu is a notably beautiful man, for starters. It's the one thing he inherited from his mom, and he effortlessly makes the ladies swoon even before he starts showing them what a nice, attentive, hard-working fella who's also good at cooking and cleaning he is. They make a big deal about his lack of talent, but it's pretty clear from the jump that the school is just incapable of measuring his real talent as being basically the best husband ever. Not quite on Rentaro's level, but at least at the same level as Futaro. And the rest of the show feels like it's at least on the quintuplets level as well. Maybe even as good as Oron. There are some gags in there that did feel distinctly Host Club-esque. This could well be one of the greatest harem anime of all time. Definitely keep an eye on it.
I want to check this out as well. We're getting some good recommendations up my street. Yeah, let's go.
Summer's other harem isn't quite on that level, but it is still quite fun, and it sets itself apart from other harem anime in its own way, with a very prominent no boys allowed sign. That's right, baby, it's a yuri harem. There's no freaking way I'll become
It's on
your lover.
YouTube. It's on YouTube. That is interesting.
Unless, or Watanare for short, and also in Japanese, which I am going to keep using because it is very difficult to use that other title in a sentence. The series stars Renako, a pink-haired ball of social anxiety who changes her whole vibe and moves to a far-off school in hopes of finally making a single friend. Imagine her delight when she ends up making 4, one
way.
of whom, Mai, is a literal model. She's
Whoa.
not just finally being sociable. Girl fell in with the popular posse. But that's a whole lot of pressure for an introvert to take, and when she inevitably cracks, it's Mai who comes to check up on her, thinks she's trying to kill herself, and accidentally makes them both fall off the roof.
Oh. I'll save you! Oh no!
させるものか。
Um.
もう大丈夫だね。私は運がいいんだ。
Oh. So they fell into the tree!
The aloof beauty doesn't entirely understand the concept of introversion when Renako explains it to her, but in trying to relate, she ends up opening up about her own struggles with having to constantly be on as a celebrity, and when Renako accepts and consoles that hidden side of her, Mai falls instantly and madly in love. Which isn't exactly what Renako's looking for right now. She's barely even figured out how to have friends yet, and and would much rather focus on that for a while. But I'm not sure Mai can even fully comprehend the concept of not getting what she wants. So they make a compromise where some days they'll date and some days they'll just hang out until they figure out which one they like best. I'm not sure exactly how they're supposed to figure it out when their whole zany friend group's dynamic is already so aggressively flirty to begin with.
Nice.
It's probably for the best that they're keeping it casual and switching back and forth, because the general vibe of the whole unit is one big cuddle puddle, and you immediately get the impression that pretty much everyone is at least thinking about wanting a piece of everyone else, or would be if they were into girls, which they're definitely not, of course. Unless, if you ever felt disappointed that Bocchi the Rock didn't go there, Watanabe might just be the yuri
How is this on YouTube with such a decent, like, animation style? It's just confusing.
rom-com for you. It's a ton of fun, incredibly cute, great animation, one of the best OPs of the season, and best of all, you can watch it for free right here on YouTube, right now, on the It's Anime powered by Remount.
That is so mad. How has this channel only got 614k subscribers when it's anime you can watch for free? What? I'm gonna have to check that out.
Channel, which also has Uma Musume, Yakitate Japan, Hitman Reborn, and the next show we're talking about, Hell Teacher Nube. A shonen battle series with a spooky twist about a 5th grade school teacher with the hand of a demon and a heart of gold protecting his precious students from supernatural threats.
Cool.
It was a beloved Shonen Jump classic back in the 90s, and now it's back on TV with a shiny remake to hype up the new Hell Teacher Nube Kai manga and cash in on the Shonen Exorcist craze it was 3 decades too early for. From what I understand, the original series was a real grindhouse sleazefest, clearly inspired by the lurid OVAs of the 80s and nakedly thirsty for every girl in its cast, most of whom are, as you might expect from the premise, 5th graders.
Oh, okay.
The remake more or less abandons the sexualized side of that.
Good. That's good. I like that.
In favor of punching up the violence to even edgier extremes.
Okay. This sounds brilliant.
And as you might expect, that change has certain musky corners of the anime fandom absolutely frothing at the mouths. Cries of censorship are echoing across the internet, just as they did with the Ranma remake, and like with Ranma, I do totally understand why they made the change. Shueisha's plan here is clearly to take one of their most iconic old spooky shonen things and spruce it up for the modern global audience that fell in love with JJK, Dandadan, and Chainsaw.
Makes sense.
And that modern global audience clearly doesn't mind some amount of sexuality in their shonen anime. They're watching Dandadan and Chainsaw Man after all. But straight up fan service for no real narrative purpose, especially when it involves 10-year-olds, is the kind of thing that scares a lot of people off. So if they can make the show work without that, it's probably
I'm down
the
for
right
that.
business.
I'm totally down for
And
that.
it does mostly work. There's some issues with the pacing of chapters versus episodes, like you can feel some of the seams of the adaptation, but on the whole, the characters have a strong presence, the spooky bits are genuinely unnerving, the fights are bloody and visceral, and it's not afraid to put the kids in mortal danger, which should be thoroughly exciting for the kids at home, whose parents have decided that horrific, deplorable violence is okay so long as no one does anything naughty. I think there's a pretty solid chance that Hell Teacher Nube could really take off, assuming that word of mouth gets around about it, because, again, it is a free anime that you can watch on YouTube, which is cool, but also means it's not getting that Netflix boost or even a Crunchyroll bump. So, you know, it needs the algorithm to help it go places, which is, as we all know, very finicky. Please leave a like and comment. Not that Netflix is actually doing much to boost its own original anime these days. Leviathan, Studio Orange's ambitious adaptation of Scott Westerfeld's alt history adventure novel of the same name, has not had nearly as much fanfare around its release as a show this gorgeous and a story this epic deserves. So, since we're already bending the wants to watch rules, we may as well bend them just a little farther and give it that fanfare here, even though it's a Netflix batch release and thus not technically a seasonal anime.
Oh, okay. Still. out now.
Bohemia, 1914.
Oh.
Alexander, son of the very recently late Archduke Franz Ferdinand, goes for an early morning stroll in his...
Franz Ferdinand? Michael, you're the only one I ever want. Wait, what was his name? Let's go back. Let's... Wait.
Teacher Nube could really take off.
Sorry.
Assuming that word of mouth gets around about it, because, again, it is a free anime
I'm trying to make a joke here. It works better if I remember the guy's name.
which is cool, but also means it's not getting that Netflix boost or even a Crunchyroll bump. So, you know, it needs the algorithm to help it go places.
Okay.
Which is,
I hate
as
that
we
I
all
can't
know,
just...
very finicky. Please leave a like
Anyway.
and comment. Not that Netflix is actually doing much to boost its own original anime these days.
Leviathan.
Studio Orange's ambitious...
And Studio Orange always do a really good job with CG as well. I missed that at the beginning as well. So, like, you know the CG is going to be really freaking good in it as well.
Adaptation of Scott Westerfeld's alt history adventure novel of the same name has not had nearly as much fanfare around its release as a show this gorgeous and a story this epic deserves.
Okay.
So, since we're already bending the wants to watch rules, we may as well bend them just a little farther and give it that fanfare here, even though it's a Netflix batch release and thus not technically a seasonal anime. Bohemia, 1914. Alexander.
Alexander. No, fine. Okay, wait. Place Franz Ferdinand. Nope, there's no jokes to be made.
Son of the very recently late Archduke Franz Ferdinand goes for an early morning stroll in his family's diesel-powered battle mech and never comes back. As German spider walkers crawl over the border in hot pursuit, he and his father's most loyal retainers flee west to Switzerland. 1,000 miles away in Edinburgh, Scotland, a common girl disguised...
That said Daniel on the thing there. That said...
to enter an army recruitment center and
Wait.
act...
Go back.
Since we're already bending the...
Nah, I hate that I can't just scroll that far. Sorry guys, I don't tend to do this very often. But I like that I can. Right, I promise I won't keep doing this. I'm sure I wanted to see what's on the piece of paper.
Alexander, son of
Alexander Franz Ferdinand, Switzerland.
goes for an early morning stroll in his family's diesel-powered battle mech and never comes
back. Okay,
As
yeah.
German spider walkers crawl over the border in hot pursuit, he and his father's most loyal retainers flee west to Switzerland. 1,000
Right, what we got? Denise, Daniel, David, Dylan, Michael. Okay, there we go. There's a Franz Ferdinand song called Michael, and his father's called Franz Ferdinand, so I was hoping. So there it is. Ha! My name's Daniel, so that's cool. Anyway, right, I'll stop doing this.
miles away in Edinburgh, Scotland, a common girl disguises herself as a boy to enter an army recruitment center and accidentally commandeer one of their genetically engineered flying machines. An ornery, dirigible jellyfish named Huxley who flies away in a storm with her. Eventually, they both end up being blown onto the deck of the mighty flying whale ship, Leviathan,
Whoa.
crown jewel of
This
the
looks so
Royal
cool.
Navy.
It sounds so interesting and weird. This is such a strange world that's been created. I love it.
Get pulled into her crew. As Europe teeters on the brink of all-out war between the mechanists of the East and their hulking great clankers and the Western Darwinists with their abominable bioweapons, these two unlikely friends are pulled together by fate for the rip-roaring adventure of a lifetime. Leviathan's breathtakingly Ghibli-esque biodiesel punk world is the culmination of every advancement Orange has made in 3D animation since the studio's inception, marrying the expressive human models they perfected.
It does look great. It looks so good. Like, obviously, you got Beastars, Trigon Stampede. I can't think of the third one.
Trigun and Land of the Lustrous to the more animalistic techniques they developed for Beastars, and throwing in the sort of giant
It looks
robots
so
the studio
good.
founders cut their teeth on for good measure. And the results of all that experimentation and expertise absolutely speak for themselves. Just look at this show. Don't you want to live in it? Speaking of empires that suddenly stopped existing in the first half of the last century, Turkey!
That was a strange
Time
cut,
to
but okay.
Strike is a hybrid moe club and sports anime about a high school bowling team fighting for their friendship and their future over the craziest summer of their young lives.
Playing
It's a
bowling.
story about different people learning how to see eye to eye, about finding a middle ground between casual and competitive fun, about how things you expect to always be there can up and disappear before you know it, about how in bowling, as in life, it's the second throw that really matters.
いや、ボーリングじゃないし。やっぱうまいこと言えてませんね。なぜ？そうだよね。ボーリングには二投目があるよね。
And it's about some other stuff, which you'll find out about when you watch it. Or when you try to look up literally anything about it, because fucking internet clout goblins refuse to let anyone be surprised by anything that they weren't there to watch within literally 10 minutes of it releasing.
Mate, like, this is what's frustrating me today. So, at the time of me recording this, Fantastic Four came out in the UK yesterday. I'm going to see it today. This morning, I find that the end credit scene has been leaked, and I saw 1 second of it scrolling through my Facebook feed. So I'm having to just stay away from Twitter and Facebook and all that, because I don't want to know anything. I have no clue about the story. I don't want to know about the credit scene. I want to go. I want to experience. I want to enjoy it. Absolutely blind. Why do people do this? Why? Why? At least give it, like, 5 days, 3 days, a week. Give it a week.
I had turkey spoiled for me, unfortunately, and I really don't want that to happen to you, which is the main reason that I'm putting it here in the main list, even though I can't really judge how good the anime as a whole is gonna be without waiting to see more of what they have cooking. The first episode does deftly establish a sizable cast of characters and their various relationships while telling a concise and compelling sports drama story, showing rather than telling us about the long journey that brought them to where we find them as the anime begins. It's good shit, real cinema, and that quality should carry over to the rest of the show. But on the flip side, this is the same director as several Gohan's anime. Not the most terrible Gohan's anime, mostly, but only mostly. So, yeah, I have no idea if Turkey's going to be worth finishing when all's said and done, but I am certainly happy that I started it, and I wish I could have started it blind, so I hope you guys get to enjoy that in my stead. If you'd rather watch cute girls fret about stone pins without doing anything that might necessitate a huge spoiler warning, though, you're still in luck this summer, because anime girls don't get much cuter than Ruri of Ruri Rocks.
Ruri Rocks. Okay.
A precocious young fashionista.
I am a
whose
fan of the
passion
animation style.
for jewel-studded accessories
Very cute.
and lack of discretionary income pushes her deep into the mineral-rich mountains of Japan to get crystals and gems free from the source. And it's out there that she meets Nagi, an even cuter woman studying mineralogy out in the field, who slowly helps her get obsessed with collecting rocks.
Cool.
And man, oh man, what a woman
I'm not pausing it there.
she is.
Oh my god.
Extremely talented perverts at Studio Bind have taken
There we go. I wanted to pause it on a image where it just wasn't just tits on screen. I'm waiting for him to talk about how beautiful she is because she's got a big rack or something. Come on.
the earthy naturalism of Mushoku Tensei's world and the zany, elastic energy of Onimai's comedy and mashed them together into a serenely hilarious romp through the Japanese countryside. And while they were at it, they focused all of their
It does make the characters stand out, the style, doesn't it? It's like very arty and realistic in the backgrounds, and then, like you said, it's got a very cutesy, comedic kind of like animation style for the characters. It makes the characters stand out on the backgrounds.
extremely talented perversion into the supremely curvaceous rump on Nagine's backside. The way that cake quakes even through thick hiking jeans is the sort of seismic activity that made our ancestors think the gods were angry. And let me tell you, bud,
God.
I would worship at that altar every single
ちなみにその先
標本として売ったらかなりの金額になるぞ。
やだ、絶対手放さない。
Very cute.
All right, pretty rocks anime. That's what we were talking about.
Yes.
The rocks are very pretty, just to be clear, though. And the fun little mineral factoids that bookend the commercial breaks are genuinely fascinating. The
Cool, so they do kind of like a little Dr. Stone thing. Like, so I remember reading the manga and it was very informative, but I preferred watching it move on screen because my attention's very low. Yeah, I like how the Dr. Stone thing would like explain sciencey stuff as it was happening, but do it in like a cartoony way to make it fun. You know what I mean? God, I'm such a child.
show approaches the wonders of the natural world with a suitable sense of awe for the sheer unfathomable magnitude of geologic time and an awareness that every rock came from somewhere and will keep going somewhere else long after it leaves the girl's hands. I don't think that mineralogy or moe enthusiasts could ever reasonably hope for a better animated intersection of their interests. This is an anime with heart and soul to spare, with vibrant
It looks
characters
great.
whose personalities shine through every frame of every movement, with gorgeous environments and an intoxicatingly relaxing atmosphere. There are many, many good reasons
God
to
damn,
watch
this looks so good.
Ruri rocks, in addition to the most glorious cartoon booty to come out of Japan since Red Hood got the axe. Moe Hangout anime only get better than this when Kyoto Animation is making them. And on that note, remember how I said Lord of Mysteries was far and away the season's most impressively produced new anime?
Yeah.
That wasn't strictly a lie. I do think that the
Looks
average
amazing.
anime enjoyer will be the most impressed by that show's flashy cinematic visual style. But there is one other anime this season whose animation, art direction, and especially compositing are so much better than Lord of Mysteries and frankly anything else this season, this year, and possibly this decade that most of you won't even realize how insane what you're looking at really is.
It's like a comic book just being like, but moving.
KyoAni's spiritual successor to Nichijou, City the Animation.
いやいやいや、ありゃごまかせねえだろ。物入ってたぞ。
じゃあお前ならどう切り抜ける？
じゃあ謝るしかねえだろ。
謝ったら怒られんだろ。
そりゃそうすぎて一気に目が覚めたぜ。
There's no such thing as objective standards in art, but the theoretical ideal of animation direction as an artistic discipline is for every single frame and every single line of background art in a show or movie to look like it could have plausibly been drawn by the same person using the same tools. Of course, this is much easier said than done, ensuring that tens of thousands of drawings and or cel-shaded 3D renders from dozens or even hundreds of different artists are all absolutely consistent in their coloration, line weighting, and overall style on time for broadcast 13 weeks in a row is a truly Herculean task.
I love different art styles and different stories that go into the art style used. One that always sticks with me, and I need to find the DVD since the move, like stuff is just still in boxes and that, because I don't know if I mentioned it, I bought a house. Dead Leaves is a really interesting movie you should watch. The art was done by like graffiti artists, and it's all like spray paint colors. There's like thousands of different colors used in the design, in the making of it, and that so that's a really good one if you're into different kind of like interesting art styles and stuff.
Which is why basically every commercial
And the story's really interesting as well, because it does this really kind of loop thing where like you could start the movie again and it's like you're just still watching it continuously as well. Very clever. Anyway.
anime compromises on it in some way, except City. From the start of the first episode to right before the most charming ED you've ever seen in your life,
Cool.
no matter where on screen you point your eyes, City only ever looks like City. And City looks unfathomably gorgeous. Not in an obvious,
This is cool.
showy way. Its style is simple, flat, cartoony, and abstract. The sort of thing you might find in a kid's picture book. But once it starts moving, that picture book comes to
That's what's
life.
impressive
And there
about it.
isn't
It is, like I said, it's like just looking at a comic book or something, and it's just in motion.
a single inconsistency to break the illusion of that living illustrated world. Kyoto Animation is out here flexing on every other studio on the planet, and they make it look so easy. I'm worried most anime awards voters won't even appreciate what
Yeah.
they accomplished. Of course, it goes without saying that on top of looking gorgeous, it's one of the funniest cartoons you will ever have the pleasure of watching.
Oh, fair.
It's Nichijou with college students. It was never not gonna be hilarious, but even in that context, I was blown away by how hard it made me laugh. It's crazy to think that we've gotten 3 10 out of 10 first episodes this season. Although the joke that made me laugh the hardest so far this summer was actually in a different anime, With You and the Rain, which tells a simple and heartwarming tale of a girl and her dog.
Why does that instantly make me think of Death Note? It's the woman that instantly to me screams. I'm sorry, it screams. I think it's because I used it in a video and I've recently turned it into a short that I want to upload. It's the woman that fancies Light, and then she finds out later in the series about Light and starts helping him. She's the news reporter, isn't she? Yeah, but obviously it's not. It's a different show. She just screams that in my head instantly, like, what? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I know, we're all thinking it, and yes, that is the joke. The one that made me laugh the hardest, I mean. One specific riff on it in the vet's office, just perfect Kaguya-esque comedic timing. I was howling, which is not something that you'll catch this dog doing. He is a thoroughly polite little gentleman, patient, gracious, tidy, smart, immaculate penmanship, knows how to clean up after himself, and he's a great listener. Not that the scatterbrained novelist Fuji-san is especially talkative either, but that's okay. They can always crack a window and soak in the sound of the rain together, which is precisely the vibe that permeates most of this anime. Cuddled up on a couch, toe beans
this is so
extended
cute.
as the droplets beat gently against the glass. It's not a laugh-a-minute, bust-a-gut comedy like City, and it's certainly not about to top it on Sakuga, though its animation is amusingly expressive where it needs to be. Where With You and the Rain really excels is in building and sustaining a very particular ephemeral mood. Laughs are just one kind of medicine in this cozy Iyashike's cabinet. Will
Healing
that
story.
joke keep being that funny? Probably not, if I'm being honest. Anything gets old with repetition. But the atmosphere is what I'm sticking around for anyway.
It
The
looks
deep belly
so
laugh was just the cherry
adorable.
on top. I also got more than I expected out of
What
Secrets
is
of the Silent Witch,
this?
which I already went into with pretty high expectations based on the description and trailer, which led me to believe I was going to be watching Bocchi the Magic. Our heroine, Monica Everett, is the fastest caster in the West, who
Cool.
secured her place among the elites of the magic elite at the tender age of 16 by inventing silent casting.
Oh, that's so sick. That is so sick. That sounds so sick on paper.
Apparently, though, she only invented it because she's too shy to talk in front of other people for literally any reason, including magic.
That is amazing as well. That's so funny. She's shy and doesn't want to talk, so she invented a way of not being able to talk to cast spells. Oh, but then obviously people would want to learn that. Ah!
Being both 16 and a supernaturally speedy and stealthy spellcaster, Monica makes for the ideal covert bodyguard for the country's second prince, who at present
Wow,
finds
this
himself
sounds so
struggling
good.
to fulfill his duties as the Magic Academy's student council president on account of all the people who are trying to assassinate him. Before she can help with that, though, Monica has to figure out how to survive high school as a self-conscious dweeb who physically cannot stop herself from spouting off about math. Luckily, the villainess bullying her is in fact a government plant helping with her cover story, so it's only the basic friend-making she really has to worry about. Unluckily, though, that's challenging enough as it is.
大丈夫かい
And the prince only makes it harder by being so damn handsome and
He's
charming,
sexy.
which is the part I didn't expect going in, even though I probably should have if I'd paid more attention to the trailer. In addition to being quite the thrilling magic-fueled power fantasy and a pretty decent fantasy political thriller, plus a surprisingly compelling and emotional character study, Secrets of the Silent Witch is on that good Otome game shit. We're talking Baccarina shit. She's got a whole harem's worth of hot boys between her and her target, but guess what? The girls are just as cute too. There is something
that's
in
what
this
we want,
anime
boys.
for
Yeah.
everyone, and I am loving it. If I have any complaint, it's only that the show's pacing is just a little bit terrible at first. More than half of the first episode is spent just watching people talking in a wooden shack. A very cozy wooden shack with
Oh,
lots
it does
of
look
loving
cozy.
detail in the background art, but like, we opened on a dragon murdering people. Could we maybe like go outside, try to find more of that? To be fair, they do find more of it eventually. Mighty cool dragon murder waiting on the other side of that shack scene, not to mention some very lush fantasy landscapes. Also, to be fair, the people in the shack are very expressively animated and generally quite entertaining.
I like
it
the
just
design
doesn't
as well,
need
yeah.
to be nearly that long. But then episode 2 comes along
That's what
and
she said.
moves at a
Ha.
much more satisfying clip, so I'm willing to give it a pass. Besides that one complaint, it is rare we see girl trash this good. And on that note, our next and final anime of the main list, Gachi Akuta, is about
Gachi
a man after my
Akuta.
own heart. In a sharply stratified world of haves and have-nots, the haves live lives of pristine excess. Nary a speck of dirt or lump of trash to be found anywhere on their clothes or anywhere within the towering white walls of their exclusive utopia. Anything they want, they get, and anything they don't want, they toss away, never to be seen again. Outside the walls, the have-nots live in squalor, shunned by their cleaner betters for the grime that they're
Damn, what
forced
happened?
to live within, denied even the city's scraps by laws that prevent trash.
Ooh, cool character
In the
design.
grand scheme of things, though, it could be a lot worse. They could be in the pit.
Oh, so there's even further beyond. Damn.
Beneath the floating island humanity calls home, a black ocean of garbage stretches out to every horizon.
Oh, whoa.
Infested, it's said, with countless vicious beasts and the humans that the city has deemed to be trash,
Oh.
assuming, of course, that they survived the fall. Our young hero, Rudo, is a man who absolutely loves his trash, diving into the dump every night to find the discarded treasure of the elites, but that might well put him on a path
Oh,
to
dear.
join the people in the pit. And that's before his journey gets suddenly accelerated when he catches a guy murdering his adopted dad, and the cops pin the crime on him.
Oh.
Vowing revenge on the killer and this whole trashy world for good measure, Rudo is cast down to Earth, where he'll fight his way back up. Somehow. The show hasn't really gotten around to
Okay,
explaining or
fair.
even demonstrating its shonen power system yet, and frankly, I applaud that choice. Instead, it gets to spend a full episode introducing its charming lead and painting a striking picture of its aesthetically and thematically evocative reverse Battle Angel Alita setting. Even next to one of the most stacked shonen lineups in all of history, with like 5 different jump titles, and 3 of them are super hype, Gachi Akuta manages to set itself apart as
Excuse
summer's
me.
final one to watch. watch. We're not out of anime recommendations just yet, though, because it's time to dive into the bargain basement.
Okay,
where
what
you're
else
gonna
we got?
find some good shows that weren't quite good enough to make the main
The
list,
cat
as
one.
well as a few really great ones that simply weren't eligible for one reason or another. For instance, I don't usually cover short anime at all, but I think it's really important I make an exception for Milky Subway, the
Milky
Galactic Limited
Subway.
Express. A stupidly gorgeous independent
I do
3D
like the
anime
style,
made by
yeah.
writer, director, animator, modeler, sound designer, and YouTuber Yohei Kameyama, with some help from few enough assistants and producers that all of their names comfortably fit on this one credit screen.
Okay.
The show follows a ragtag group of space delinquents sentenced to a week of space community service cleaning up the titular space subway as punishment for their various space misdemeanors like space drug possession, space highway speeding, and blowing up a space cop car.
Well.
With stunning 3D environments, a cast of fluidly expressive characters, and breathless cinematic pacing, this would be an impressive effort coming from a full studio, let alone basically one guy. And best of all, you can watch it right here, right now on YouTube for free, subbed or dubbed in multiple different languages.
Oh, that's so cool. The effort that's gone into that as well. It's so weird. It's so... I mean, there is money to be made on YouTube, you know, you're getting like the millions of views and that, like, but still, very interesting.
So go check it out, tell your friends to check it out, and support independent animation. I also feel it is my civic duty to inform you of the Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity situation, which
Why
is
is there
that Netflix got their hands on this gorgeous-looking adaptation of a widely beloved
Why was
Romeo
there a question mark next to Netflix?
and Juliet type shoujo romance manga, and then they went and Netflixed it, telling the fans to just wait till September to watch the thing, even though it's already out in Japan, which obviously many anime fans are not going to do because they don't have to. I guess Netflix is just banking on their target audience of teenage girls caring more about whether they can watch the show dubbed than whether they can watch it on time. And that might actually not be the worst bet. I don't know. I haven't talked to a teenage girl in a very long time.
The teenage girls will be off school for a few weeks in the UK, might be a thing.
That wasn't in English, with at least a few musical numbers sprinkled in. But things presumably have changed since then. I hear anime's pretty cool now, so I'd assume that a good chunk of them watch subs these days, but who knows?
Who knows?
Either way, it sucks that we can't watch this show on Netflix for the next few months, but we all know how to solve that problem if it's really bugging us. Could always be worse, I guess. They could have released it with borderline incomprehensible ChatGPT subtitles, like what happened to Necronomicon and the Cosmic Horror Show.
Oh.
Thankfully, Crunchyroll has since addressed the controversy and replaced the AI slop. Apparently, it was the work of a third-party vendor that broke the terms of their contract. But considering how stacked
that's
the
naughty.
season is, I doubt most of the fans who immediately wrote it off are going to give it a second chance, which really sucks, especially for the show's writer and creator Makoto Uezu, since this was his first ever chance to make an original anime after decades of putting in good work in the industry. With the subtitles ungarbled, the story he wrote, in which eldritch abominations from beyond the stars force a group of small live streamers to play VR Fall Guys with SAO stakes, is actually pretty interesting and creative, with solid twists and turns, a charming cast, and as strong a sense of humor as you'd expect from the writer of Konosuba and Is This a Zombie? So I do hope it can rise above that terrible first impression, but my hopes...
Yeah, that's naughty, that.
At least horror comedy enjoyers will get a kick out of it, though, and they are eating pretty well this summer. Night of the Living Cat tells the tale of an apocalyptic
seems so weird.
communicable by cuddling that turns its infected into adorable little kitty cats. And honestly, I'm a little disappointed that I've got to put it here instead of where I was expecting it in the main video. Not just because the concept's so fun, but because it happens to be the TV anime debut of Japanese horror cinema legend Takashi Miike. Unfortunately, live action and animation direction are two very different skills, no matter how creative and talented a director might be. And Miike ends up falling into a lot of the same traps as other filmmakers who've tried to make the same jump. It is still a fun show, don't get me wrong, and when the zombie spoof bits hit, they hit. But sadly, the pacing is rather awkward.
That's so funny. It's only has to be let in. Stop scratching the window.
The shot framing flat and unimaginative, and the bits where it's not just having fun with the idea of zombies, but they're house cats tend to drag just a little. It is still a fun time for zombie flick enjoyers and cat lovers, but not quite enough to stand out in a season this stacked. That won't stop me from watching the whole thing, though, and I do hope that Mr. Mike keeps making anime, because this one is already perfectly serviceable, and his skills can only get better. On the flip side, I came away from The Water Magician pleasantly surprised by how well its first episode delivered on its survivalist slow-life isekai concept, and with how much fun it had exploring the intricacies and applications of its hero's power to make water do anything he can imagine, such as freezing it into a magnifying glass to light a fire, then realizing he doesn't have to do that because if he can freeze it, then obviously he can control the temperature of water in other ways. Duh. Also, he can make a high-pressure water cutter, which is pretty darn OP in a fantasy setting.
Yeah.
The focus on a very specific power set
Always
ends up setting it
is.
apart from all the other isekai where the hero are just overpowered in generic high RPG stat line sort of ways, but not so much as to take away from the power fantasy fun. It's not the sort of show that's going to light the fantasy anime world on fire, but it is a good time. On the other hand, Ugly Mug Epic Fighter tries to set itself apart by making its generically overpowered RPG hero really ugly as a trade-off. Like,
alright, like, but why? Well, okay. Just to kind of stand out. It's one of those, isn't it? I don't really have an idea for a show. I'll just be really weird and try and make it stand out by making the character really fat.
A literal game mechanical trade-off. He sets his appearance stat as low as it will possibly go, and in exchange, the isekai world gives him a bunch of bonus stats to start with, which he gets even more of by giving himself additional debuffs, like every time a woman touches him, he loses 10% of his health, and if he ever has sex, he will literally die.
Oh.
And now, when he fires a basic arrow from the starting bow, it does this.
That's actually quite cool. I love that. So he's debuffed the character in ways that would make him seem cool. So he takes away everything that could potentially make the character cool, and then he's rewarded with just OP attacks. That is hilarious.
I came into Ugly Mug expecting angry...
I was not expecting anything like that. That's so cool.
Slop, but to my surprise, its heroes actually really well-adjusted and easygoing, and all of the much hotter isekai people that he ends up partying up with turn out to be really nice, down-to-earth folks, too.
Oh, okay.
And generally capable, even if his literal god-tier power makes that point more or less moot. On the inside, where it really counts, this show's a hell of a lot less ugly than the likes of Shield Hero, and even on the outside, I feel like it's having more fun with its animation at the very least, as its original Japanese title, A Bouquet for the Ugly
April
Girl
Showers
suggests,
Bring
the new
Me
romance anime
Flowers.
April Showers
We don't
Bring
know why
Me
we're watching
Flowers
this.
also claims to have an ugly protagonist of its own, in kind of the same way Ugly Betty makes that claim. That is to say, she's more or
God,
less
what a show.
a
Wow, what a
conventionally
throwback. I
attractive
haven't watched Ugly
woman
Betty in a
who
long
wears
time.
little to no makeup and crappy clothes. I guess she's also, like, slightly chubbier than your average anime girl, very slightly, but all in all, it's not nearly as incomprehensible that a hot guy might want to date Hana as she seems to think it is. Like, in her head, she's constantly lamenting the fact that she's never going to have the perfect shoujo manga high school romance she always dreamed of, but all that's going through my head while she's on that is a running count of all the shoujo protagonists who could say the exact same thing. I guess technically this one's a little different since it started in a seinen magazine for adult men, but like Kimi ni Todoke, Honey Lemon Soda, Say I Love You, Don to Don, awkward people hooking up with popular people title is a very common, dare I say,
Yeah.
classic shoujo trope, and it really bugs me when characters pretend it's not. That said, if you're looking for that sort of classic shoujo vibe, you could certainly do a lot worse. You could also do way better, though, especially if you're not letting Netflix tell you what to do. Heck, you can even do better with specifically an anime about a girl with low self-esteem, no fashion sense, and freckles learning to love herself as a byproduct of a hot guy also loving her. Betrothed to My Sister's Ex is a fantasy
Wow, what? Oh my god, what a title.
romance type dealy with a somewhat deceptive title, since he's more of a widower, about the red-headed regular child of an impoverished noble family who finally escapes her Cinderella-esque life of essentially indentured servitude when her sister dies in a carriage crash and she's sent to said sister's rich fiance's house as a replacement. But then it turns out that the hot ethnic Earl got their names mixed up at her birthday party last year, and she was the sister he wanted to marry all along, so it all works out. Except, of course, for her sister who died off-screen after lamenting that she would no longer be able to follow her dream because she was forced to get married and buying a bunch of men's clothes in her size. Big time shame we're never going to see her again. Real fairy tale.
That's kind of depressing when you think about it.
Which is exactly what English expat Lily Baker thinks she's experiencing when Renji, the handsome arcade employee, wins her a cute plushie as a Valentine's gift in cultural exchange with the Game Center girl. Though in reality, he simply didn't understand that they take Valentine's a lot more seriously in Britain than they do in Japan, which doesn't necessarily mean he's against hanging out with her, just that he'd like to get to know her better before committing to anything and maybe learn a little bit of English along the way.
Oh, that's cute.
As friends, at first.
That's fine for now. I'll make you fall in love with me.
Interesting.
Aside from how generally cute and wholesome it feels, what really impressed me about this anime is how good the English voice acting from Lily's American-born seiyuu, Sally Amaki, was. The English writing isn't exactly natural sounding, and neither is her fake British accent, if I'm being honest, but there is some genuine nuance and humor in her performance that only really comes through to an English speaker, and that's more than I can say for like 99% of the English voice acting in Japanese anime. It even gives the show some additional potential value as a practice anime for Japanese learners on top of its intended function as an English teaching tool. The animation's real cute too, and the video game references and Crane Game pro tips impressively on point, even though a real Crane Game employee would like come over after like 20 minutes just to like keep the line moving, you know? If you're a foreigner in Tokyo doing Crane Games, if you're struggling, they'll come over, you'll see. That aside, very realistic Crane Game tips. There is just like one small issue with the anime, which is that she's 13 and he's kind of legally an adult. But if you can get past that, it's really good. And hey, when you're done at the game center, see you tomorrow at the food court is the name of another anime this season about a pair of unlikely best friends, a rich, quiet girl and boisterous Gyaru, hanging out every day after school in the product placement-laden food court of their local Aeon brand mall. Discussing such exciting topics as how to navigate internet controversies caused by your hot takes on gacha husbands, and why it's important not to say yes by default in response to random English sentences you don't fully understand. That's one Renji could have learned from in what is essentially a never-ending manzai comedy bit, all while enjoying the delicious and affordable foodstuffs of KFC and Baskin-Robbins, plus also maybe other sponsors later. It's a simple comedy show whose appeal comes down entirely to how much you enjoy the characters, and the characters are pretty enjoyable. The same can be said for Bad Girl, an anime about the sweetest, most innocent little cinnamon roll you've ever met, Tani, who happens to have a big old crush on the school's disciplinary chairwoman, Atori Mizutori, a stoic and kind beauty who only ever seems to pay attention to troublemakers and rule breakers, like use effortlessly
Oh,
cool
no.
Hikaru pal Suzu. So in order to
Girl
get
gotta cause trouble to get attention. Is that where we're going?
her attention, Yu decides she must become a bad girl.
Whoa.
The baddest girl. The kind
Whoa.
of widely feared delinquent who eats and drinks on public transit and makes sure all her fashion choices technically comply with the school rules so no one can stop her. Lucky for her, whether or not she's any good at being bad, Yu is adorable, and Senpai does eventually notice that, even joining her in her cute girls doing delinquent things poorly shenanigans. Shenanigans which do seem to be the main focus of the series. According to manga readers, it's more of a general moe hangout comedy than a
okay.
rom-com. So, if you really want something properly sapphic, you're gonna have to stick with Watanabe. On the other hand, if you're looking for a com with even less of the rom, Detectives these days are crazy follows a former genius teen detective 20 years past his prime as he struggles with back pain and these newfangled smartphone things while trying and mostly failing to solve cases like
Right.
these two.
That sounds
When an
funny.
aspiring genius teen detective named Mashiro decides to be his assistant, whether he likes it or not, though, he's given a chance to finally get his mojo back, or at least start paying his rent again with some regularity. It's not the season's funniest show. The jokes tend toward the zany, absurdist side of things, bordering on lol random at a lot of points, but most of them do still land, and I was chuckling along pretty heartily through the whole first episode. I honestly did not think
What
I'd be
the
saying
fuck
the same thing
is
about
this?
the Shy Hero and Assassin Princesses based on its underwhelming trailer, not to mention the art style, which, I mean, you have eyes. I don't have to explain that. Although, I did actually found it kind of grew on me in a janky sort of way the more of the show I watched, and it certainly doesn't detract from the comedy, which centers on an extremely self-conscious but otherwise insanely OP adventurer guy and the three insanely beautiful women in his party whose constant attempts to kill him are constantly thwarted by how OP he is.
Huh.
勇者殺しの依頼はミスれねえんだよ。
Of
She
course,
looks
they
so
all
disappointed with herself.
immediately start falling in love with him as soon as the adventure begins, which undermines the bit a bit. But it is still a very good bit, and I did still laugh a lot. In contrast to how that fantasy hero's always a step behind, New Saga's hero, Kyle,
New
yes,
Saga.
really, don't laugh, is always one step ahead
Kyle.
of his baddies on account of how, after defeating the Demon King by the skin of his teeth, he found himself thrust back in time to 3 years before the big war, giving him a chance to do it all over, but this time without the demons murdering literally everyone he knows and loves.
Ha! I've seen this before. What was it? Oh, what was it? Oh no, but he defeated him. What was the one where they're fighting the dragon and they actually get defeated and then like he goes back and he's trying to sort it? Oh, the beginning after the end? No, that's recent. It was... Oh, I was doing TikTok reviews on the episodes at the time and then stopped. Anyway.
It's an interesting, if not particularly unique hook for a quest that'll draw you into a decently fleshed out fantasy world with a decently interesting magic system populated by decently likable characters. Nothing to write home about, especially in a season with Lord of Mysteries and Clevatess, but it still scratches that familiar itch pretty well. If you're looking for something a little more inventive on the fantasy front, Apocalypse Bringer Minogra World Conquest Starts with the Civilization of Ruin is an isekai. Don't leave, let me finish.
I'm
About a
staying.
kid who
Okay.
becomes
Oh,
one of
right.
the world's premier players of a fantasy-themed civilization knockoff from the comfort of his hospital bed before he finds himself reborn as the leader of his favorite faction after his whatever disease it was finally gets him. That faction is an unusually polite evil empire built to snowball into cultural and economic victories rather than military from a relatively weak starting point, which is fascinating from both a lore perspective and a 4X game design perspective, and helps the show feel like a little bit more than just store brand Overlord. don't get it twisted. It is still store brand Overlord, but one of the nicer store brands. Not quite Kirkland, but like Target? Target. Now, Togen Anki, that right there's a Kirkland brand blue exorcist.
This is on everything. Okay, right. So no trouble finding this one.
Knockoff. Only instead of exorcists and demons, of course, it's about people with Oni blood fighting the descendants of Momotaro, which is a classic Japanese fairy tale that we really don't have time in this segment to explain, but this is far from the only anime that references it, so probably you should go look that up. Pretty important to the whole Japanese culture thing.
Okay.
As shonen battle things go, I was honestly pretty tepid on Togen Anki at first. The Momotaro's power to make swords out of black particle effect things wasn't really doing it for me, but then I saw a geriatric ogre hunter matrix dodging under a cruise missile made of blood, and I blew the f*** in. The episode set up early on, before his Momotaro dad's old Momotaro buddies come to kill him, that Oni Protag-kun's a military hardware otaku, and boy, does it ever pay that off when his powers finally activate. The design of the Oni looks proper metal, too. It's really just the Momotaros that make you go, oh, wow, I bet that looked a lot better in the manga. But those are the main antagonists and like half of the power system, so we'll probably have to look at that terrible 3D Kirby crackle quite a lot. As an almost original anime, Kamitsubaki City Under Construction doesn't have a manga to worry about outdoing, but even if it did, it wouldn't have to worry too much with how striking and surreal its 3D animation looks. Set in a post-apocalyptic world where a whole bunch of people were turned into ash piles by a strange green light one day, and ever since the survivors have been randomly turning into monsters, it follows a squad of witchlings.
That's a very bizarre world, yeah.
Whose songs are the only thing that can kill these monstrous tesseractors as they fight to protect what's left of the world and maybe even heal it. When I say this anime is almost original, what I mean is it was cooked up by the VTuber agency Kamitsubaki Studio as part of a massive multimedia project to flesh out the lore of their virtual witch phenomenon group across various video games, a novel, a tabletop RPG, a Japanese alternate reality game, and, of course, their regular music and VTubing activities. And that's kind of the problem with the show. When I watched episode 0, I thought it was going for a cryptic in medias res approach to building its story and world, which does kind of work because it's kind of spooky, but after learning more about it and seeing the second episode, I'm pretty sure they just expect you to be caught up on the VTubers, or at least the visual novel, to even know who people are and what's going on, which is pretty frustrating. Don't have nearly enough anime musicals, and this seems like a pretty good one. They got the director of the Bang Dream anime to helm it, and he's clearly in his element with both the subject matter and the dark tone. It's just not accessible like It's My Go or Ave Musica. For those who do have the time to get fully invested, though, the VN is available in English, and this is the most artistically ambitious project of its kind, so if you're into VTubers or J-pop, you might want to check it out. With that, we have finally actually run out of recommendations. Here's all of them.
Crazy.
Refresher. But we're still not done with the good anime yet, at least potentially good ones, because at least 6 of the anime that are due out after my cutoff for this video also seem worth keeping an eye on, and 2 of them definitely won't be getting any promotion from Disney+. Those 2 would be Cat's Eye, a modern remake of quite possibly the most 80s core anime of all time, about a cop who continually fails to realize that the sexy Phantom Thief type cat burglars who he's continually failing to catch every night are, in fact, the waitresses at his favorite cafe. And then there's Bullet, a sexy, high-octane post-apocalyptic thrill ride made in loving homage to Mad Max Fury Road by Sung-Hoo Motherfucking Park.
What's
you
cool?
know, The director of Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1?
Whoa.
Doing Mad Max Fury Road? Sign me up.
Yeah.
Okay, Iko tells the hilarious-sounding story of an innocent young choir boy who gets roped into helping a Yakuza thug prepare for a high-stakes karaoke competition, while Captivated by You tells a more mundane high school slice-of-life tale of an odd couple of unlikely best friends. Both shows will be animated one after another by Doga Kobo, which is one of those studios whose adaptations basically never miss, even if they don't always pick the best source material.
Cool.
And in this case, the source material is 2 award-winning short manga by the same award-winning author, apparently set in the same shared universe, so I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem. Harmony of Miyu looks like a pretty solid K-On! Type anime about an a cappella club full of cute girls doing a cappella things. Whether or not it will actually be any good will of course depend on how good those girls end up being, and it's a totally original anime, so it's hard to say at this point, but the trailer does look really nice. Speaking of good looking trailers, there's also
My
a new
Melody
stop
and
motion My
Kurumi.
Melody and Kurumi
Oh,
show
that's
coming
cute.
to Netflix from the director of Pui Pui Molcar, and y'all know how I feel about stop motion. Horny. But on that note, what I'm most excited
Terrible.
for as a trash connoisseur is Nuki Tashi the Animation, an adaptation of an insanely raunchy and also just plain insane visual novel about leading a guerrilla Volcel revolution in a dystopian island paradise where everyone is legally required to Now that's gonna be a good roast, at least for the patrons who can actually see what I'm talking about, and anyone who likes puppies. Okay, now that's really all the anime we're going to talk about. Here's the list one last time if you need to write anything down. And if you're wondering where
That's
the heck
crazy.
say, Don Da Don was, or Dress Up Darling, or Bunny Girl Senpai, or any of the
Watch the
20+
Summer, it's crazy.
other hype sequels coming out this summer, you clearly missed my last video, and you should fix that. You may also have missed the last episode of the Quest for the Best podcast, where we had a very good chat with Sungwon Cho, Pro ZD, about his pick for the greatest anime of all time, which is probably our best episode yet, so you should probably go fix that too. I highly recommend it. I'm Jeff Thu, professional good stuff recommender, signing out from the bottomless depths of my to-watch list.
Very cool. A lot of decent recommendations there. A lot. Yeah, so cool. Awesome. Yeah. I'm gonna have to check some of these out. Lord of Mysteries looks freaking fantastic, so that's the perfect excuse to get into that, and I can check out the content videos. More stuff to check out. Yay! Good times! That was Boss. Thanks for watching.